Welcome back here on Prime Morning. It's time for us to take a look at sports and what's happening today. And of course, we all know about the Black Stars facing Angola today. It's a big deal, especially for the new coach who's taking over the Black Stars. Now, you all saw the events that led to where we are right now. Of course, the unveiling in Kumasi, the massive crowd that actually welcomed him, and the disappearance or the inability of some members of the GFA to show up, also been in the public discussion, and also the training sessions that have come up and what we've seen. In the studio with me this morning, we've got top journalists here in this country, in Africa. And I'm about to get into that conversation. Gary L. Smith is here with us at the Multimedia Group. And of course, Nathaniel Ato is also here with us. And these are men that when it comes to sports, you can pass them by and talk to any other person. And it's a pleasure to have them over here. Gentlemen, please, this is your table.
Glad to be here.
Great stuff.
Thank you. And, it's just amazing, the events of the last, 3 days, where everybody is just looking at how the build-up is going to go. Players came in. We had the news of one major injury, Tariq Lamptey. Tariq Lamptey is one player who surely looked forward to his nationality switch. It happened. And, you just feel a certain zeal within him to want to deliver for nation. And one of the backstories tell us that Tariq Lamptey, for instance, is somebody who, in the background, made effort where in previous times you'd have the FA rather approach a player and say, look, we want you to come and play for the Black Stars. Rather unfortunate he can't make it for this. But just like I've said on previous platforms, this is also a very big opportunity for Schindler, the 29-year-old Cologne player, to also make an impact if he gets the opportunity to feature in Coach Chris Hughton's starting lineup. And of course, Chris Hughton is starting off this job. Everybody seems to be calm, and I'm sure if you ask Gary, he'll tell you. I mean, everybody who listened to him seems to have a certain level of calmness regarding what he's about to do because of the way he has communicated, because of his display of an understanding of the terrain and the space he has just entered. And it's just a good tone to start everything off. What now will be left is that you're going up to play football before a set of very, very enthusiastic fans, people who, within our geographical setting, constitute the best in terms of fanaticism and in terms of pushing you to get the best. Therefore, when you're there, you'd have to deliver and deliver well. And this man right here said it on the day when he was unveiled to the media that, look, I know that once you get there, would have to win the games, but there's work to be done. So, hey, game on.
Well, at this point, Nat will take over. I'm going to be representing the fans. Gary will represent the sports journalists. Fentio will be joining us on Zoom. He's also be on the other side, and Nat will be hosting at this point. So, for me as a fan, and let me even begin from there before you take over. I think that this is a moment we've all been waiting for, looking at our performance in the World Cup. Now, coming back, the major thing was that, do we have a coach that we can all say, oh, the fans are proud that we have a coach who, it's not like, I am doing this for a period and I'm not too sure whether I'm staying or not. I mean, what we all knew after the game, that this is not somebody who was going to be here for the longest. And he came out and said that, yes, I'm going. A fan like me, as disappointed as I was, even looking at what we did in the World Cup, the next stage for me is, now who is the best man for the Black Stars? So it was proper for us to get a coach at this point. Now, as to whether he's going to be given all the support he needs to also achieve what he's supposed to be achieving, it's also another thing. I mean, like you rightly said, leading into this game event, there's some of the things that we saw, and for me, I'm disappointed as a fan that this is top priority, whether you like it or not. It is something that no GFA president will say, I want to excuse myself for whatever other engagement there is. But this is a man that was unveiled, and the whole GFA president was not there. As an ordinary fan that I'm looking at it, I'm going to be asking the question that, how did we get here? But for us, it's the first time we've seen a selection that we're all proud of. Every single fan out there saw the selection and was like, this is what we want to see.
This is the best we have.
This is the best we have. And so he should deliver for us. This is a tough game. it's a do or die for him. From where we sit as fans. Let's make sure that he's able to achieve it. We'll support him, but it's a big deal.
It's a big deal indeed, and we're having this conversation in the build-up to this game that comes off, this afternoon. Kickoff is at 4 p.m. and the build-up begins at 3 p.m. Gary L. Smith is here with me. Tahiru Fento is in the heart of the Garden City where this game will be played. He's been there over the last 24 hours, and we'll be bringing the perspective from the ground. Now, Gary covered the last FIFA World Cup for the group. Now, so Gary, placing the two scenarios together, tell me what's running through your mind now and what the key things are for you as we get ready for this game. You saw us at the World Cup. You saw all of the reactions that came, all of the stories that followed in the aftermath. Now we've gotten to a certain crossroad. What are the key things for you as we get ready for this game?
Yeah, it's a very valid question, and your question comes on the back of the fan representative here.
Yeah.
The things he said as well. In short, KMJ is worried about the optics.
Yeah.
And what they signal for everybody involved. The GFA have not come out to say what exactly the president was involved in, for which reason he couldn't make the unveiling. But, if you monitor the media space, those we know have certain sympathies towards the FA say that it was their way of doing two things. Because we saw Alhaji Grunsa there, a management committee member, and Henry Asante-Chum. No, but in terms of the management committee members, so it was Alhaji Grunsa and two others. They are not who you would call the most high profile of, but the background is that Chris Hughton buried his father last week Wednesday.
Okay.
His father, no, in the UK.
Okay.
His father passed and he buried him on Wednesday. Thursday he came to town. Friday he was at Achu's funeral. The same Friday he signed his 21-month deal. Saturday he flew to Kumasi, where he and the GFA vice presidents and the top hierarchy were seen at Akwesi Day. So they went to Akwesi Day together. Like the way Idris Elba was taking. So he went there. They showed him the town just for him to familiarize and for him to understand what he was getting himself into. That Kumasi and football is like, fufu and So there's that background. And those with sympathies towards the GFA have said that the FA president not being there was his way of communicating, one, that the GFA executive committee are together. So that it's not always like when there's a coach coming, it's only the same people who are going to.
Disagree.
No. I'm saying, I'm making a point. I'm saying those.
And I disagree from
those with sympathies. I'll come to the other side. Yes. And two, that we are the same people who say that there's interference all the time. And so this is a way of communicating that they will not interfere. Whether that is true or not, you have already said,
Then
there are those who feel that the optics of it would have been better. There would have been weight around the unveiling if the GFA president was sat next to Chris Hughton.
That's what the fans wanted to see.
Yes. And then there are those who have said that the past two coaches who the GFA has sat beside have all brought bad luck.
But Gary,
exactly. And it be Ghana we did.
It be true, and and this will bring us back to you just before we get to Fento on Zoom. Look, when we're in the pubs, in the hangouts, and having the conversations in the offices, these things are key.
These are what people say.
These things are very, very key. Exactly. And I'm sure, you all also have your own twists around this.
They be out now, coaches in their ballock.
Like the whole Drake scenario.
So now then what happens? If Chris wins this one, wins the next game, win the third
then
game.
They'll say that, then if that is true, I mean, some have said that.
But we the fans want to be sure he's in full support of the man doing his job.
Well, and he says he's in full support.
Has he proven that?
Well, for
there
example,
are different ways of proving that.
So for example,
behind the scenes?
No. So for example, when you were giving your intro, you said a couple of things.
Yeah.
You said you, the fans, saw the 25-man squad, and you were very happy.
Yes.
That
But
means-
someone else might not be happy about it
No,
because
but-
somebody stood on his grounds.
No, whatever
If
happens.
our previous records is something we want to even take a look at right
Yes.
now. What I also think is that we saw it, we're happy because a certain man that has been given the job proved his worth and said, you know what, this is what I want.
This is what I want. And isn't that what
Someone
you want?
else who felt maybe I couldn't influence this that much.
Yes.
Might say, well, go with that.
All
I
these
don't really care.
are conspiracies. All of these are
Exactly.
conspiracies. Let's get on Zoom. Let's go over to the Garden City, Kumasi, where Fento is on standby to also bring us the perspective from the ground. Fent, good morning. Good to have you here.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Fent, I want us to start off from the point of view of ticket sales and what has been recorded so far. It's around a 30 to 40,000 seater capacity stadium. The expectation is that it will be full from various angles would want it to be full. Now, at the last count, we saw a figure of around 13,000. As of the last count, I realized that sales had gone up to about 13,000. What is the situation regarding the demand for going to view the game live at the stadium?
Yeah, I think the 13,000 was the figure. Was the last update that we also had, to be honest. And that's true e-ticketing. We have to always point that out. It's not like ticket sales have started at the stadium and they've sold 13,000. No, this is true, the e-ticketing platform. And, things are still very traditional around these areas. Even in Ghana in general, most people still want that experience of going to the stadium to buy a ticket to enter. The gates are supposed to open at 10 a.m. So any moment from now, ticket sales will begin at the gates and people can come in, buy tickets, go back home, have a bit of fufu, or even go back to work and then come back around 2 p.m. To try and access the game at 4 p.m. The expectation for me, I think yesterday, since my arrival around 4 p.m., there's a massive interest in the Black Stars. And it's always a precursor to a massive attendance. And those precursors are always, one, the interest people show at Black Stars trainings. Yesterday, the last training session alone, there were more than at least 4,000 people, if I'm not exaggerating, that were.
And we're going to share images. We're going to share images of that in the stands very shortly as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was quite a crowd at the stadium to watch the Black Stars train for the last time, and that was consistent with the numbers that we saw on Tuesday as well when the Black Stars trained for the first time. So. And you can see the enthusiasm even on the way. Yesterday, for example, during the training session, there was a point where the gates were closed to the fans that were outside, but they became very impatient and were agitating. It almost got to a point where they almost broke their way through until NSA officials and GFA officials intervened and then asked that they allow the fans to enter the stadium to watch the training. The training was supposed to be behind closed doors. It was impossible to keep the fans out. So they allowed them in to watch the game. So the activity in and around the stadium has really picked up. This morning, I went out, took a stroll around the stadium before coming in. You could tell even the people that sell paraphernalia and all those things reported very, very early because they know the norm. People would come in early, buy everything that they need, go back to work, go back home, come back when kickoff is approaching. So I think the crowd will be decent. Bear in mind, it's a working day, but we have played matches here on working days in Kumasi, and it's been absolutely filled to capacity. If I'm not mistaken, I think that Egypt versus Ghana game, which Ghana won 6-1, was played on a Friday. It was a working day, but the stadium was packed to capacity. The fullest I've ever seen the Baba Sports Stadium. It was ridiculous. So there is consistency with the Kumasi fans. Whenever they love the team, they show up. It doesn't matter which day or which time, they will be there. And the feeling is that they love this team. And it's credit also to the GFA in the way they have marketed and promoted this match. Now, they have deliberately used the people who are from this place to promote the game. The first video the GFA sent out was a video of Mohamed Salisu speaking Hausa and urging the Zongo community to come to the stadium.
Yeah.
Ever since we came here, he's not even trained once. He did a bit of running around on Tuesday. Yesterday, he didn't even train. And yet, the massive crowd that came from the Zongo communities, holding and hoisting Mohamed Salisu banner, it was ridiculous. It was crazy. And then you have another player like Inaki Williams, whose roots are from this side. Koningsdorfer as well. Yeah, Bransford. His parents are from here. So they've got all of this. So they try to build on that connection and ride on the back of that nativity, if you like,
very well,
of the people from Kumasi to try and promote them. And it's working because the people feel very, very connected. Because also, I think the management of the Black Stars are bearing in mind that the last time Ghana played a game here, right after a World Cup, it was a very, very toxic atmosphere. Because it actually got to a point you couldn't tell who the fans were rooting for, whether they were rooting for the Black Stars or Uganda. And this was the game after the 2014 World Cup, that disastrous campaign. And they came, the press conference didn't go too well because Samoa Jan and Andre Ayew came to justify the 100,000 they took. And then later someone went to criticize John. His brother went to slap somebody. It was a very, very toxic atmosphere before that match. And the game ended 1-1. Uganda scored first, and the fans turned against the Black Stars. This World Cup, the gravity of what happened might not be as much as what happened in 2014, but it was still a disaster nonetheless. And there were still issues of money grabbing, not necessarily from the players, but from the management committee members. So they have to be very deliberate in trying to get the fans on their side. And that's what they've been trying to do ever since they got here. And so far, from what I've seen from the training sessions, it's a strategy that is working. The hope will be that it translates into a massive attendance. And the Kumasi fans are very fragile. I grew up here. I started journalism here. I can tell you, they are not the fans that will support you through thick and thin. They love football. They love good football. They love victories. Portugal will be the first to tell you. If a team is not winning and it drags on for far too long, they start to get very impatient. So as much as we're trying to get the fans to the stadium, we have to pay them back with a good performance, with good results. And for me, that's the only way to keep the fans coming back to the stadium. So it's a win-win situation if Ghana can get a victory, because then it would mean that subsequent matches the fans will come. But from what I have seen, from all indication, that it looks like the stadium is going to be packed, absolutely packed to capacity. Maybe nothing close to what we saw in the game against Nigeria in that World Cup playoff. But certainly, I expect a very, very decent crowd inside the stadium.
Very well, Fento there on the ground in Kumasi. And remember, we're bringing you live commentary on Joy 99.7 FM, starting the build-up a minimum of 30 minutes ahead of kickoff. Gary's here. Gary will be on the summarizing panel. Gary, we're getting into specifics of the game now. When you look at the group, Ghana and Angola, both sides need to secure a good result out of here to ensure that qualification towards, Cote d'Ivoire is smooth. Now, quickly, before we get into the specifics, what will a win mean to this whole process of restructuring the Black Stars and giving it a new look from your end?
Restructuring the Black Stars, I'm sure you mean like the transition.
Exactly.
Yeah, transition essentially means from the old to the new. The old guard of the Black Stars are not entirely out of the system. There's notably the Ayew brothers, Andre and Jordan, who are the
longer serving in the team presently. If you look at this 25-man squad, there's a mixture of those who have played basically just a couple games for the national team, and then those who have played one or two tournaments, then those who are featured in only the World Cup, and those who have never played in a qualifier at all in Ghana. Some have never played a qualifier at all. And you mentioned Kingsley Schindler. People have never heard of him. Most of us sports journalists had not heard of him before. He was called up as well. As you mentioned, he's a 29-year-old. And in your short, the last time Ghana met Angola in a very competitive game was this famous Kojo Asamoah pass to Asamoah Gyan that got us one of the best
combinations we've seen in the Black Stars in recent years. You know, I mean, you've had Baba Rahman and Andre Ayew, they cross the ball to each other, Andre has the ball and scores. But Kodjo Asamoah and Asamoah has been, you know, one of the best ones. This pass in the 2010 AFCON, in a year that Asamoah described as the best year of his career. Everything he touched, he says, turned to gold in 2010. You know, whether we can bring that back is another matter. But Angola are coming into this game. Fento sent us the report. They were supposed to get to Kumasi at a certain time because yesterday it rained. They were supposed to get to Kumasi around 5. They didn't get to Kumasi 7 p.m. They didn't get there. They got in around 8. They had their training session very late. So they had only one training session. Of course, the Ghanaian would hope that the fact that they train only once will show when they play. But these things, I mean, you can't script them sometimes. Sometimes the motivation from not getting in early, being tired alone can carry them and give them anger, give them momentum and all that. I was also stressed that some people were saying, were those machinations from Ghana? No, it wasn't from Ghana. It wasn't any, what do you call those things? Those African things as well. So not Ghana need a win. We've seen some of the big nations who will be in action today in precarious positions. Rwanda played yesterday against Benin. They drew. Sierra Leone also played against Sao Tome and Principe, and they also drew. What is going for Ghana? I think that, as KMJ said in his introduction, those are the Angolans in a shot, by the way, when they arrived very late in the evening. Yeah. And it was after this arrival that they went to train. You know, so you can...
Part of their strategy.
Yeah.
And you know, and in athleticism, the thing is, it can work for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear stories of our legends. I mean, the likes of El Hadji Diouf, and they'll tell you that El Hadji Diouf can go to the club in the thick of a tournament. Well, you can call that the highest height of discipline, but then he can go to the club, go and party hard, reports to camp at 3 a.m. By 4 a.m., he's back and they're training. Where he derived that energy from, nobody knows. Is a myth that we cannot discuss at this time. But these things do happen. So I'm just looking at it from the point of view of possible stress and the fatigue that traveling around could give them ahead of that one training session, which is crucial. Which is a shake-up ahead of the game. Anyway, So you were making the point about, you know, the figures and all of that. So Ghana has a goals advantage in this time.
Just a reminder, Ghana is in the same group with Angola, Central African Republic, and Madagascar as well. The Black Stars have equal points with Angola. They have 4 points each. Ghana is top of the group on goal difference. So Angola know that any advantage counts. Their coach has been talking a lot. I need to underline. Like he's been talking plenty.
From there,
from a month ago, saying that the Black Stars are nothing. Like, you know, they are very beatable. They are
when you talk plenty like that, they bring.
Meanwhile, you know, I like the Black Stars demeanor. Like nobody has been.
We seem to be worried about it.
But Gary, you all remember the scenario ahead of just about a year ago when Daniel Amokachi made a very big mistake and went and did that. That selfie
video.
And they paid for it very, very bitterly. I'm also reminded of the period before the World Cup when we brought the series, the World Cup Tales, where Stephen Appiah spoke about Bruce Arena, the then coach of the United States, who ahead of our game against the US at the 2006 World Cup in Germany, went, granted an interview, and just rubbished the Black Stars. And, according to Stephen Appiah, that is what gave them the fuel to deal with the US in that game.
And it's a typical situation with the Angolans and how they got in and all of that. Like I was saying, sometimes these things put you in some sort of anger that you feel like, okay,
what are they
let
doing?
me just, let me just be mad at this and use that anger to, reflect whatever it is I want to reflect on the pitch. And so that could also be a win for them. I mean, it's not automatic, but if they're able to put strengths together and capitalize on that, it could change a lot of things. And for me, I am thinking about the Black Stars who have been in town, who have had a couple of training sessions and have a point to prove. Because really, if they are able to win, then it means that your training sessions and all of that and whatever happened to them didn't really make sense. So we don't have any choice. At this point, you don't have any choice. It is one thing they say that, we all had an equal training session and we beat you. And another thing they're saying that we came in late, we had our training session late for A or B reasons. we're not able to do things that we, ordinarily would have done to make sure that we're able to play. And we're still able to beat you.
Yeah.
That's a different
ball game. And looking at the numbers that we saw, because both teams, Ghana and Angola, have equal points in the group E, these mind games are, because
very, very
they have not been to the AFCON in a certain frame of mind in a while. So, and they know that Ghana is a World Cup team.
Yeah.
I mean, they are not blind. They can see that, as you said, they can clearly tell that we have selected what is essentially our best 25 players in the world. So how they can beat us is by any means necessary within the legal means. So what it says is that in Kumasi today, the Black Stars, through Chris Hughton and what he has said, thankfully he has also said that we shouldn't expect a Black Stars that will necessarily play beautiful football.
Which I agree.
He says his priority is win, 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 no matter what.
But at this point, Gary, we've seen, earlier this morning I was saying it, we've seen Ronaldinho's play, we've seen the Messi's play, we've seen these guys stars on. They played football like never before. The Maradonas and all of that. But eventually these guys will prove a point by the goals they're able to accumulate.
That's all, that's it.
And if you're not doing it now, who cares about beautiful soccer these days?
There have been days, and I must say this, there have been days when, and that's one of the reasons why the FA, then led by Kwesi Nyantakyi, decided that, look, let's make Kumasi the hub of support for Ghana. Because Accra fans are sophisticated and difficult like that, where the Black Stars scrape through a very difficult game, win by 1-0, and you see fans go on social media and all of that to complain. And
you
what is important is
project.
in a scheme, in a situation as complex as this, where the two sides have 4 points apiece, it is important that you get your 3 points and you get a very good goal cushion. Okay, so this is the arrival. Exactly, the arrival of the Black Stars players. And of course, as usual, you have airport staff, neglect their duties for a while so they can, some trying to cut their way through the barricades and all of that. And this goes to just underscore what Fento was telling us about regarding, the love that people have for the team. And it's just refreshing to note as well that there is demand for this game. What is important is that we need to have the atmosphere created right. Let's now get into the, what.
So let me just remind how we got here. Of course, the Black Stars beat Madagascar by 3-0. And then, surprisingly, drew with the Central African Republic in a game that the Black Stars were expected to win. It all contributed to the lack of belief in the team going into the World Cup and all that. Yes, so that's how come Ghana, the Black Stars, have 4 points. Madagascar themselves drew with Angola, and then Angola won one of their other games as well, which is how they also have 4 points. So going into this game, we know that the second leg will be in Luanda. That will be on Monday. So the Black Stars need a good result here, which absolutely falls in line with Chris Hughton's proclamation that win is priority number one, beautiful football is second for him.
Get the goals.
Because he wants to qualify for the tournament.
Very well.
And that is
very well. Côte d'Ivoire is only, there's a couple of hours drive from here, and people are already projecting how they're going to support the Black Stars.
Côte d'Ivoire.
So that's another conversation for another day. But right now, I want to engage Fento and Gary a little bit. I mean, they followed the Black Stars around pretty much in these competitive encounters. And now, as Coach Chris Hughton is trying to create a new formation, a new look Black Stars, who are we likely to see? This morning, for instance, we put a post out and put our 3 goalies out there for you to decide, if you were in Chris Hughton's shoes, who you'd want to man the goal. And then we could come to the defense, the midfield, and the attack line. Let me go to Fento quickly. Fento, very briefly, I'd want you to tell me what kind of projection you would want to have based on what you've picked up, regarding how the Black Stars are going to look from the back line to the attack.
Yes, before that, a quick correction on the Angola situation. So they didn't actually train yesterday. So the first time they will see the Baba Yara Stadium pitch would be when they step in there for the match. So the plan was for them to train once they arrived at the airport. So they got to the airport a little past 8 p.m., I think around 8:35, thereabout.
Very well.
decided against going to the stadium to even have a look at the pitch and just went straight to their hotel and then checked in and then spent the rest of the night there. Interestingly, they're staying in the same hotel as the Black Stars. But, that's very normal for tournaments. Yeah. But for qualifying matches with a lot of options, it's a little strange. But they insisted that they wanted to be in this exact same hotel that the Black Stars were in. So somebody jokingly said yesterday that you disturb the Angolans at your own risk. Because, like Gary was mentioning, there's always that tendency for African qualifying matches for people to be up to all kinds of shenanigans. Some away teams have complained in the past that in their hotel they couldn't sleep because there was too much noise around. So somebody said, in this situation, you disturb the Angolans at your own peril. Basically, that's what happened. So they didn't train at all. They didn't even go to the stadium. And the reason they landed late was because, in fact, they were supposed to arrive originally at 10 in the morning, okay? And they didn't arrive at 10 in the morning. They arrived in Accra at 5 p.m. because there was disagreement over where they were going to land. And this is not a new matter. It's happened with Nigeria. It's happened with Egypt. It happened with Zambia. It's happened
we do remember the CHAN tournament as well. The recent CHAN issues with Morocco and Algeria as well.
Exactly.
Very well.
Exactly. So it keeps happening. And it's the same issue. The runway in Kumasi is not long enough to support big aircraft. Yeah. So you have to land in Accra. And they always don't believe it. They always think it's because they want to put them through some severe travel routine or something like that. So there was a lot of negotiation going on for several hours before they eventually took off. So they came to Accra, left their plane there, and then they got airlifted on a much smaller aircraft to Kumasi before going to their stadium. So basically, that's why Angola arrived super, super late. Their first training session was supposed to be at 4 p.m. They didn't make it. They moved it to 5. They didn't make it. They moved it to 7. They didn't make it. And I was like, okay, whenever you get here. And then they got here and then decided they weren't going to train after all. So is that advantage Black Stars? I don't know. But certainly, they've not had the best of rest. And, important games like this, you need your players to wake up feeling refreshed and having had a feel of the pitch and all of these things. They have no experience whatsoever on any of these things. The first time they will see the pitch will be when they step onto it for their warm-up session.
Okay,
as far as training, back to the question you asked earlier about the indications or any clues we picked up about who might be playing. Usually the last training sessions, coaches will give you clues about who might be starting. And Chris Hughton was no different. In the last 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes of his last training session yesterday, he divided the team into 11 aside. And you could see from one side of the team who the regulars were and who the not so regulars were. And if we're going by the people that were on the regular side, you would be tempted to say he'd probably going with Atizigi in goal. He started with Walakot, then took him off and brought in Atizigi. Atizigi finished that. There might be a debut for Schindler as well, the right back. Remember, Tariq Lamptey isn't there. So we now have to deal with Dennis Odoi, and then this new boy that's coming. He's played at right wing back, right wing, right back. So he's very versatile. And it's an option that perhaps I have a feeling.
All right. Kingsley Schindler likely to make, a debut. We'll just get back to Fento in a little bit.
So let me just continue because he has.
Very well.
So Fento sent us this, so I can continue what he said. Walakot, Schindler at right back, Edu, that's Jiku, and then Gideon Mensah at left back. In the middle, Pate, Ado, and Kudus. Jordan, Ransford Yeboah, Joseph Pentil. Then we saw a substitution with Inaki coming on as well. And Salis couldn't play yesterday because he arrived late. He had flight issues with his passport. He misplaced his passport and all that. So by the time it was,
So it's likely he might not make it.
Yeah, so it's likely he he will start. But I mean, the coach can, come on, but he will definitely play. So yeah.
All right. So for this kind of formation, we're sure are going to have 4 at the back. Okay.
Yes. But I mean, he has also said at a press conference, interestingly, that he likes his goalkeepers to be able to use their feet, like we see in modern football now. Atizigi during the World Cup had quite a decent performance, even though Ghana conceded 7 goals. I think that, I mean, it's agreed that, the concession of the goals was not largely his fault, but the entire defensive structure. So what we saw yesterday suggested 4 at the back. Now, the interesting thing is this is a home game. This is African football. You don't want to play sitting back.
Yeah.
You want to take the game to the opposition. Assuming, of course, that people come to the stadium. You want to give them something to shout about. So do you play 3 at the back or 4? But even if he plays 4 at the back, he would feature players like Schindler who will be able to go forward.
Yeah.
Gideon Mensah is also the same thing.
To overlap.
So even if he plays 4 or 3 at the back, he would have an attacking mindset.
Very well.
Partey, if he decides to play Salis...
I was looking at a different angle.
Yes.
If he decides to play like he plays in Arsenal.
The coach has also answered that question.
That's very well. Really, we've had that issue, and I think
the coach says that Partey, he describes Partey very interestingly. The words he used was, he said Partey is a continuity player. And then he broke it down further. That's why it's nice to have somebody who speaks English so that you understand exactly what he's saying. He says Partey being a continuity player means a player who progresses the ball. That we shouldn't expect Partey, whether for Arsenal or here, to be the kind of player who will dribble. And so what does Partey do well at Arsenal that we like? He's able to take the ball and influence play through his ball distribution, and also to give the team a grounding in defensive midfield and contribute meaningfully in attack. Many are those who have said that the players that he has at Arsenal help him to achieve this objective.
And they do a better
job than what we have here. And that's what Chris Hughton has said. He didn't say it in those words, that we don't have those kinds of players.
But it looks like we don't have to push him too much like the way we do. Because,
and he said that,
collaborative. And
he said most importantly that the job Partey does for the Black Stars is appreciated by the coaches, but maybe not by the fans.
But we the fans largely...
I guess this is similar to the Jordan Ayew conversation about how Jordan Ayew is being utilized and how, so I guess that in our last...
but the problem with Jordan is Ghanaian fans complain about Jordan for both his club and country. For Partey, they complain about how he plays
in Arsenal.
For his club. Yes.
Very well.
Yes.
Very
it's like Mikel Obi for Nigeria, where Nigerians used to complain that he played better for Chelsea.
Yeah, than he plays for the national team.
Yes.
I mean,
very well. Okay, so
this game.
Right, now, my conversations with conditioning trainers and and psychologists and all of that tell me, and this is not from a Ghanaian perspective, what the Angolans have done is sure to take an effect. There's no doubt about that. Because, number one, there's been travel, and anybody who travels by aircraft and by bus over a certain period will definitely have a bit of wear and tear. And so if that couple of minutes of shake-up ahead of kickoff is what they'll use as the training. It's a very
that's
big problem.
Very true.
And these are not superstars or demigods of football. Like you had the Romarios who will not report at training yet, would give you an expert delivery. The Maradonas and all of that. So, let's see how all of it goes. Looking pretty good. I mean, in terms of the numbers as well, it's looking good for Ghana, isn't it?
Yeah, but no matter where it goes, it shouldn't be to our disadvantage. And that's one thing that we should be clear. And I mentioned that it will be a bit of a problem if they are able to use whatever tactics they want to use to make sure they win this game based on what they've gone through. This shouldn't be to our disadvantage. We should be able to stick to whatever game we want to play and say, you know what, these guys have gone through a lot already. There's no need for them to win this game. Let's win it. If they blame it on whatever they want to blame it on, their travels, whatever it is, the good thing is we've had clear goals and we have won the game.
And long and short is get the 3 points.
Get the 3 points. And considering the history as well.
We can't see them winning. with all that we've gone through and what they have also gone through. No, it shouldn't happen.
That's the fun perspective.
You're making a point.
Ghana, Angola has beaten the Black Stars just once in 6 meetings. You know. The last time we met was in 2010, so it's a very long time ago. It's a very different Angolan team. Like anything you know about Angola, throw it out of the window. Everything is different with them, and so we need to look at this game with a completely new set of. There it is.
Very well. So this is the head-to-head, and this is from 1982. Where were you in 1982? Look, Fencho, let's come to you for about half of a minute, so you could just tell us what your projection for the game is based on everything you've seen. Fent.
Yes, I think Gary finished off that conversation quite nicely. The expected starting lineup, but Chris Hughton has indicated that he's a very fluid manager. Even yesterday, he was asked who his number one goalkeeper is. And that's the only one position where most coaches are always very convinced who is number one, and they will tell you everybody else is playing backup. Yesterday, he said, it's anybody's game, really, and that he has no number one at the moment, and that any of the three goalkeepers could start the match come later today. So I think that's the one area Chris Hughton is doing really well. He's keeping all of us guessing, even for the lineup. Nobody can be absolutely sure who's going to play. There was a time in the Black Stars team where you could close your eyes and mention who the starting lineup would be. And one thing for sure, you could always tell that Andre Ayew will start as captain. From what I've seen from the lineup, from the training session yesterday, Tuesday, there is no telling whether Andre Ayew will start or not.
And that opens a new chapter.
That anyone is
Fen, that opens...
It's probably that he will start.
Very well. Wow. So, Fen, that opens a new chapter in the conversations about the new look Black Stars. And this is something we're all going to get involved in as we go along. So, Fen, thank you so much. In 6 seconds, final thoughts.
3 goals.
Oh, wow.
Okay, Gary. For some reason, I believe so much in Chris. I don't know why, but I believe so much in what he's
you're not the only one. I mean, the general reception for Chris Hughton has been good. Also, I'll just use this opportunity to tell everyone who is really invested in this game. At 10 a.m., literally in 6 minutes, we'll be going onto our Twitter, Joy Sports GH. We'll have a Twitter space. All of us, myself, Fent, Danny Cranton, Nathaniel, will all be on the space to discuss the match some more. And then at 3 p.m. on Joy FM, we'll start a build-up to the game. And then at 4 p.m. we have commentary. Fent will be doing commentary from Kumasi as well.
Thank you, KMJ. Thank you, Gary. And thank you, Ghana.